Hi friends, Shaina Bilow here. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to work a right-leaning two-stitch cable. So here you'll see I've got two stitches and they're worked together into a cable that points towards the right. You'll notice that the left leg of the stitch is leaning over the right leg and pointing towards the right. This over here is a left-leaning two-stitch cable, just so you can see the difference here. So we have a cable leaning towards the left and a cable leaning towards the right. Today we're going to focus on this two-stitch right-leaning cable and three different ways that you can work it. In the first method of working this two-stitch right-leaning cable, I am going to use a cable needle. And I use the term cable needle loosely. This happens to be a double-pointed needle that is just one size smaller than my knitting needle. So I'll be using that. And right here I'm ready for the 1/1 right-leaning cable. So my yarn is in the back of the work here. And I'm going to come down this stitch the same way I would enter it if I was about to purl it, and just slide it over onto the cable needle. Then I'm going to hold the cable needle in the back of the work, like so. And while that stitch is back there, I'm going to knit the second stitch that was on the left-hand needle. And then scoot this stitch that was on the cable needle up to the other end of the cable needle and knit that. So in essence, what I've done here is I've knit these stitches out of order, where the first stitch crosses behind the second stitch. So let's do that again. I'm going to insert my cable needle onto the stitch or into the stitch purlwise and hold that stitch to the back of the work. I'm then going to knit the next stitch. So you'll notice that cable needle's in the very back of the work. It's the furthermost thing. So I'm knitting the second stitch, and then I knit the stitch that was on the cable needle. Okay, now I'll show you continental style. So the same technique, just continental style. I've got the yarn in my left hand. So if you knit that way, this will be for you. You're going to slip that stitch over purlwise onto the cable needle, same as we did before. Keep that cable needle to the back of everything. So you'll notice I had to get that yarn detangled from that needle. Knit the stitch that's on the left hand needle, and then go ahead and knit the stitch from the cable needle. And that completes the right-leaning cable, two-stitch right-leaning cable with a cable needle. In the second method of working the two-stitch right-leaning cable, I'm going to work the cable without using a cable needle. All right, so I need no extra tools here. If you recall, the goal of this cable is to have the second column crossing over the first so that the cable looks like it's slanting towards the right, so that it's pointing towards the right. That's how we want the little cross to go. So what needs to happen is this stitch, the second stitch on the left-hand needle, needs to be knit in front of the first stitch. So I am bypassing my first stitch here. I'm going to insert my needle just into the front of the second stitch, wrap like a knit, come out of that second stitch. So I have a stitch now on the needle, and this stitch has been knit. I'm just going to leave it here for a moment while I knit now the first stitch that's on that left-hand needle. So I've knit that first stitch, and now both of these stitches can come off the left-hand needle, and there's my little cable. I'll show you that again. So again, I go into this first stitch, just into the front of it and into the first. So normally when we knit a stitch, we go in and our needle kind of heads towards the back. Here I'm going in and my needle makes sure to come above the second stitch so that I don't actually, the first stitch, so that I don't actually get it caught in there. And I'm going to wrap my yarn like I'm knitting and bring that new stitch out. Then I work into the first stitch and take the two off. And there's my little mini cable, little two-stitch cable. So I'll show you that in continental style. where the yarn is held in my left hand. Sometimes I have to loosen up this second stitch to get in, or I take my thumb and I open it. So I knit into the second stitch. Don't take it off the needle because that would push the first stitch off. And then I knit into the first stitch, and then I remove both from the left hand needle. And just like that, I got my 2-stitch right leaning cables done without using a cable needle. The third technique of working this 2-stitch right leaning cable is actually not technically a cable at all. This is called a right twist, what I'm about to show you. So a right twist is essentially working these two together and then working back into the first stitch. And it has a little bit of a different look from a cable, but you get the same end effect for the most part. They're slightly different, but we're going to knit these two together. So the stitches that normally would be involved in the cable, we're knitting those two together. Then we knit into the first stitch again. So I knit the two together, I didn't take them off the needle. I knit into the first stitch again, and now I'm taking both of them off of the needle. And what this does is it creates the illusion of a right twist, or a right leaning cable of 2 stitches. So this is a right twist. So knit the 2 stitches together. Do not take them off of the left hand needle. Knit the first stitch again, only the first stitch, and then discard stitches 1 and 2 from the left hand needle. All right, so I'll show you that in continental style as well. So I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand for continental style, insert my needle into the 2 stitches, and knit the 2 of them together. So now I have 1 stitch here. And then I'm going to knit only into the first stitch of the 2, and then I can remove both of those stitches from the left hand needle. And this creates, again, that look of the right leaning 2-stitch cable, but it's called a right twist instead. Happy knitting!